the fight that community activists wage against the old judicial system in Kharkiv and Oblast. Please welcome leader of the Civic Initiative and National Reform Committee on Lustration, Dmytro Martsion, and member of Kharkiv Lustration Public Chamber, Olexander Cherkov. Welcome. Good morning. I'd like to first of all thank this information center for this nice possibility to explain ourselves today. We are really going to talk about things we deem important in our life today. We've already got it from our presentation. We are the activists involved in illustration processes. In our case, it's mostly focused on the city of Kharkiv and Kharkiv Oblast. We would like to speak mostly of illustration of judges. You've all probably heard of a procedure according to which the judges who've been working for 5 years and were nominated by the president then go for life tenure if approved by the Verkhovna Rada, which means that there is no end of their tenure on their position. And we all witness the fact that the system that is to control judges, and we know that our judges have been cleared, they have no properties, they went successfully through all types of checkups. But we do understand that these peoples bear the old-time system in the heart, and it was really painful for us to see that the current law on the cleansing of government has no instrument to somehow influence or change the process. And we decided to take it into our own hands. So the Kharkiv Public Lustration Chamber has initiated the project of public lustration or civic lustration, which is about showing the public opinion on the basis of certain data collected on a specific official. It is also based on the assessment of such person's professional and personal quality, his readiness to talk to people, to communicate with the public, to enter into a sort of compact with the community. We have an independent jury to assess such personalities and come up with a opinions, and we do understand that whenever we see a judge willing to go for lifelong position of judge under new system, he can only do it if supported by the public, by the community, because it is people who can protect such new judges from any encroachments from the old-timers. And with the view of that, we openly addressed our judges, inviting them to go through the procedure, because we see this procedure as the only measure capable of changing the system. I'd like to tell you about early results of our work. We can proudly tell that we had 3 judges come into that public lustration procedure. It was properly recorded and streamed on video at our chamber to show that it is a very transparent process with no subterfuge, with no fights or free of any intention to get any leverage to resolve situations in one's benefit. The whole idea is about a decision to openly hear to those people, to be sure that they are willing to change the system. Ideally, we should change the system completely, but the government is currently unable to do it on itself, and we try to provide our own context behind this intention. So we had 3 judges pass the procedure. We do not analyze the judicial practices of them because it will not be correct from judicial standpoint. There is a Supreme Judicial Commission and other bodies quite authorized to do it. Our key concerns is that such judges should not have any involvement in decisions banning community actions on outreach campaign. There are cases of judges in Kharkiv banning some civic protests or civic actions. At times it led to tragic moments you all know about. We also would analyze decisions made by the European Court based on decisions of the judges that we heard. Actually, we had a kind of a dialogue. We spoke about the property ownership, about the financial and economic standing, and we were mostly interested in real stuff, real life things, because you know that individual declaration may state something about a person being not in possession of any property, whilst you may well find luxurious cars or mansions in reality. And we would ask those judges, where do they spend their vacations, what are their living conditions, and we had this possibility of streaming the process via internet, so that people interested in that could also make their questions or comment on what they've heard. And I can tell you that district courts were quite adequate in their reactions to that, while commercial courts in our area were entirely against our initiative. And there was a precedent when the chair of the administrative court of the Kharkiv Oblast, this lady that reinstated Mr. Samoilov, general prosecutor of Kharkov, in his office after he was dismissed based on the Lustration law. So this lady became the acting chair of the court, and she came up with a claim she filed to the Supreme Judicial Commission, stating that our initiative is a kind of pressure on courts. And there are attempts to undermine the initiative under various pretexts. There are provocations against judges. Someone generated a clever mechanism asking judges to write to the security service complaining of some kickbacks wanted by activists, etc. And many our activists who are related to judiciary, to lawmaking or legal advice, they know that, and they can prove that we may not continue going like that anymore. We need to change the system, and because of that we try to do whatever we can to mobilize the society. Otherwise, not a single reform will start without wider civic and public involvement. After this revolution of dignity that we had last year, we are bound to do it. During my conversation with ex-Georgian President Mr. Saakashvili, we spoke of at least 500 judges to be arrested within the scope of lustration processes after the revolution. But unfortunately, we rather see people being renominated to their positions even after this lustration attempt. So it's really a shameful situation when we see old-timers with tarred reputations being reinstated in their positions or renewed there. They have plans in the Rada to re-vote these judges back into their offices. With a view of that, we sent our considerations and concerns to the Verkhovna Rada. We know that there are MPs willing to become involved in the process. There are MPs willing to hear the public. It's a welcome development. We have never had it before. And we still need to comprehend that there is a difference between sane or hearing something and doing something. Going narrower to our oblast, to our region, we can confirm that the procedure we have devised is not an ideal one, but this is the only operative one to date, and it does provide certain public barometer, and it becomes really a litmus paper during the upcoming voting in the parliament, and we will see how it will develop, whether the parliamentarians will hear the voice of the public or not. And actually our successful attempt to stop the renomination of previous judges that were tarred with previous involvement in the judiciary, I think it was our small but success. But on the other hand, we do know that candidatures placed with the Parliamentary Committee and Judiciary until recent time have been simply okayed without any further deliberations. It was a normal process. And it is great, not small, but great success of us that we've dented the system already. We've started crushing it. We've came out of that deadland when it was not even possible to talk to judges, when you could not put questions to judges, otherwise you would risk being told that you're exerting pressure on them. Now everything has started changing, and we see certain judges in Ukraine already ready and willing to start a dialogue with the public, and we need to develop this precedent. It should be precedential indeed. I can tell you that the 3 judges that have passed our public lustration procedure, they're now under tremendous pressure from all sorts of authorities and groups of interest, and the system really tries it hard to close itself, to become opaque again, and to prevent anyone from those willing to come to light from doing so. And because of that, we want to involve all sorts of media exposure, media coverage to the question, and with little possibilities in that, back in Kharkiv and in Kharkiv Oblast, we really like this possibility of speaking here at this center. And I think, by the way, that Kyiv could also benefit from this instrument of public lustration that we have designed. This is a universal tool that may be helpful in situations when legislation is powerless, when there is a clear understanding that based on background data collected, a specific official should not serve the people anymore because of his previous corrupt past, and we may not just remain on sideways observing slack changes in the country. We need to move vigorously, and for that purpose also we created certain regulations on public lustration procedure to provide more status to it. It is not about just a bunch of people gathering to lynch someone. It is about very established procedure, very open and transparent, and we'd like to address everyone seeing and hearing us today. We want to call you to become engaged, because if not that way, it will be a huge barrier to the upcoming reform of the judiciary.
As to public illustration, I'll tell you this. We are trying at present, to hold public illustration in a way that those public servants, prosecutors and judges and police, and who hold had positions, we want them to agree to that. As to judges, before we had public illustration, many judges, they could agree, but they were afraid to come to the illustration. Why? Because when they came, they were afraid that they would be put into dumpsters or something else. offended, humiliated, and our task was to be open to all the clerks and judges and prosecutors and to show that we have democratic society, and those judges and prosecutors and police and public servants who come, we will communicate with them and who will be open about themselves and who respond to the questions they will pass through lustration, and they will hold the positions they wanted, and they will work there. And with the conclusion of public lustration. So that's a big advantage for their work on that position. And those judges who passed lustration, a few of them did it. So among 11 judges that we invited, only 2 came, and 1 came on his own. He decided to pass through the procedure of lustration, and those who came, they are the ones who are open, who are more open, and who are better. This is needed for anyone who passes through this public lustration, and I believe that will be. They will think about taking something from people, getting a bribe or something. So they will not be involved in corruption. And such judges can pass through such lustrations once a year. Those who did it, they are different now. They are singled out, and someone is fine with that. But there are those who look strangely at them, and they say nobody did it and you did, and we'll support judges and public servants who pass through the procedure, and it will be one more advantage for their further work. Thank you. Thank you very much, colleagues. Is there any question to presenters? No questions? There is a question from our center. Did you speak to the supporter to the Ministry of Justice, to Lustration Commission, maybe Ihor Sobolev, what a feedback from them? Yes. I wanted to answer that we ask, we communicate on a regular basis, and we have a very good, adequate contact with Ihor Sobolev and with the Department of Lustration and the Ministry of Justice, and with Tatiana Kondrasenko, Dmytro Martsion, and we have that corridor we can walk through and to get the support, and because of that, we can push through some civic initiatives. The only person in the region who cares about public initiatives, that is the governor, and he listens to our initiatives. He is ready to share them and to support them. On the rest, and also the Department of Justice in the region, they are ready to be open. On the rest of the bodies, categorically they are against this initiative. They wanted to bury it, and they put all the efforts into that. I would like to underline the most important. The system is broken partially. What we could do, that is a compilated labor, including the Department of Lustration, 2 MPs and civic activists, but the system is trying to punch through those appointments, and when they do it, we'll lose, and especially Kharkiv will lose the trust of people, confidence. It's easier to mobilize people in Kiev. It's more difficult to do that in Kharkiv. They don't see that there's evidence results, and they want to participate in that process. If it doesn't give effect, and if the government doesn't listen and doesn't help the process, unfortunately, those seeds on the soil of civic society may not give results, and we are afraid of that. In your initiative, in your civic initiative, do you have a Facebook page? How can we get feedback with you? Yes, and my page and Alexander, there is a website, Kharkiv Civic Lustration Chamber, but mostly on Facebook. It seems to us that Facebook is the easiest and quickest alleyway of connection between people. So, and there is information which is published all the time. There are all our streams and our what we do, and everything, all that can be viewed, especially if you're interested in that, and if you're in Kiev. And if you don't find that, we'll send you all those videos for you to watch them. But it seems to us that this is very important to introduce such initiatives into life, and it's important to mobilize the society. That's why all of us, all of you, get a site, read, correct. We don't say that we are the best and everything is we're angels and wins. And let's change. Let's change if we need to change, but let's participate. Thank you very much for your work, and I hope that we hope the situation in Kharkiv will improve, and we, Ukrainian Crisis Media Center, we are ready to help you with that and in the future. Thank you very much, and we'd like to thank Ukrainian Crisis Media Center. Our next briefing will be at